Michelle.
And I'm Laura, and this is the Parentrepreneurs Club podcast, a fortnightly show to help you navigate the demands of being both a parent and a business owner. We will share lots of practical ideas, hints and tips, and our own and others' experiences with juggling work, family, health and finances. Above all, we want to help you find your purpose, define your identity, and banish any confidence gremlins that might be holding you back from the life you dream of. No matter whether you have children or not, there will be something here for you. Let's get started.
Hello, Colin. Thank you ever so much for joining us on the first Parentrepreneur podcast. You are our first willing victim.
Wow, I'm honoured.
It was an obvious choice for me. Obviously, you've been there to support me really over the last 3 years since I've set up on my journey with the business development and the coaching that you've given me and the program that you've been leading. So yeah, it was quite an obvious choice for me to pick you. And I was racking my brains this morning, and I think it's probably 4 years ago when we first met, when I was back at Simon's in corporate HR. So yes, it felt like a bit of a time ago, but yeah, you've really helped me on my journey. So it was quite an obvious choice, and I obviously really enjoy the conversations we have frequently. So thought it would be useful for our listeners to understand a bit more about you and your journey and share some of your impartial insights. So are you okay initially just to tell the listeners a bit about yourself and a bit about the business?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Well, I'm Colin McGill. I'm on the wrong side of retirement age. My wife keeps on saying to me, "You should retire," but my love of what I do and my passion for it is undiminished after all these years, and probably more enthusiastic now than I was 30 years ago. And I live just north of Glasgow, a place called Torrance, up towards the hills, heading towards Loch Lomond. And I've been doing this stuff for the past 30 years, I guess. I started up the business back in the mid 90s and set onto the road of being in the consulting industry at that point in time. So they married with a 39-year-old son, which is aging me by the minute, year-old grandson, and I've become a bit of a workaholic, I guess, and the age has not diminished my enthusiasm and love for my chosen profession. So I guess that's a bit about me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm a Scot as well, as you probably can recognise by the.
And just a nod to it with the Angus cows in the background, which I absolutely adore. Amazing.
But yeah, we have Highland cows and deer. My wife loves Highland cows and deer, so they're everywhere. We recently, my grandson was set the task of counting how many deer there are around the house. Pictures and ornaments and something. He counted 42 of them.
Oh wow! I think I'm probably up there with the stags as well in my house. So he'd have a field trip in my house. If that was the case. That's. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've not spent a lot of time in person, have we, over the last few years? It's been very much the contact we've had been remote, which has really changed, I guess, both of our businesses quite significantly. The fact that you're up there in Scotland and I'm down in Lincoln, but we still manage to have frequent conversations, don't we?
Yeah. The world of work has changed massively over the past 3 to 5 years. The past 3 years in particular changed enormously. It's unrecognisable now to what it was 3 years ago, pre-pandemic.
Absolutely. I mean, from your perspective, are you all right to just describe, because I always find your sort of backstory really, really fascinating, just about a bit about your career history, where you started out and then what led you to set up the business?
Yeah, I mean, I went into my first career move was into the world of sales, I guess, and I became a salesman for companies who sold business to business. I did that probably about 6 years, and then I was lured into being a sales manager by all the right reasons. They gave you a cool car, so that was that's where the deal for me. So I moved into sales management. And then I did that for about 6 years, and then I moved into general management, and then I became MD of a small business, and had that. And then I was took over as a regional operations director for a big supply company. I had a fairly checkered career for a number of years, and then just I just decided at one point in time that, hang on, no, I want to do my own thing, and I decided I'd been exposed to a vast amount of training during my career, and actually, and loved that environment, and I loved the way that the guys handled the whole training process, and I was drawn into that thing. So I started up as a training consultant, mainly in sales and marketing, and did loads of work for the enterprise network. It'd be Lex down in England, up in Scotland. It was enterprise companies, and from that it just then developed into working with. I realized I'd been a leader and manager much longer than I'd been in sales, so the move into doing leadership development, company change and facilitation and all of these things, it just seemed to be the natural move to make. So we very quickly we formed a company called Changemasters back in the mid 90s, and that's evolved. It's changed its name a couple of times over the years to reflect what we were doing. So it's seen me moving into the area of working with companies and helping companies create the right culture, drive the business forward, and working with leadership teams. And it's been an incredible life. I'm incredibly blessed. It's taken me all around the world. I have been to literally, all four corners of the earth, on my client's expense and things like that, and been out to work with people, all parts of the world. So it's been an amazing experience, and my passion for it is undiminished even after all these years.
What's your favourite place you've been with work then?
I'd love to go to China. I loved Beijing. I thought it was a wonderful place. I spent, I think I went there 5 years in the trot for about 10 days, 10 days at a time. And, of all the places I think my fondest memory was, China and the Chinese people who are lovely, and crazy place, but really loved it. I still remember, one Saturday morning, I decided to go and walk the Great Wall. And it was a spiritual experience. I was the only person there at 8 a.m. in a boiling hot morning, and you felt this size. Yeah. It was a real sobering experience. So yeah, I guess China was just such an amazing place to visit, and that's probably my fondest memory, I guess.
Yeah. Great to say you've done that as part of your career and you've been paid to do it. That's some testament, isn't it?
Yeah, and usually business class as well, which is even better.
No, lovely. even better.
And best hotels. It's brilliant.
yeah, absolutely. So and I guess it sounds like the travel's been a big tick for you. What else about being your own boss have you really enjoyed? What's kind of the other things?
I guess my personality is I've never liked being directed and controlled. I was always probably a terrible employee, because I never liked told what to do by somebody. I like to be able to, form my own, shape my own destiny, and take ownership, take responsibility, so that if something goes wrong, I can only look at myself for the reasons behind that. So I just like the freedom, the choices, the flexibility that working for myself and being in charge of my own destiny gives me, I guess.
Absolutely, completely resonates with me. Yeah, I thought I was safe being corporate, and then obviously when the business entered administration, you realise you've got more control being self-employed, because it's stressful, isn't it, knowing where the next paycheck's coming from, but actually you control that. Whereas in a corporate environment,
and I guess that's really helped me to, because I feel that way, and and I realise the power, the motivational effect of being able to make your own decisions, make your own choices, chart your own way forward. And I think that's formed the basis of the work I do with people. Is I help them help leaders to actually understand that if they can help people figure things out for themselves, rather than tell them what to do, to guide and facilitate and coach them, to help them to understand that they actually do have many of the answers themselves, rather than I'm the boss, do as you're told. So I think that's probably my experience, my way of working. I'm not trying to say that everyone's like me, because 99% of the world is not like me. But I think there are some common principles that apply to most human beings, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for you, from your experience, having the sales experience, you're so good at business development, and that's an area you've obviously coached me through, and with your business development program, But obviously, as you're starting out on your own, that is a skill that you don't necessarily always have the luxury of having. And to say the support that you've given me is invaluable, because it's a skill I certainly didn't, and that's probably the bit that's quite daunting when you're trying to hunt and gather the work, isn't it? Where am I going to get it from? Is there any other skills that you think are absolutely crucial for people setting up as entrepreneurs?
I think certainly the ability to win business, I think, is a key part of it. And I think it's probably one of the biggest determinants of how successful a business be, because there are lots of people who have great ideas, and have great passion for what they do, but they're not that good at communicating to other folk, and they're not comfortable with the whole prospect of being a salesperson, because not to frighten people off, but actually the reality is, particularly if you're starting a new business, then you've got to be the product developer. You've got to deliver very often the work in which the business is based. You've actually got to go out there and win the client and all of these things. So these are some of the challenges. So being able to juggle all these different elements, the ability and the willingness to put in the effort, because no successful business was ever built by doing it on a part-time basis. So it depends on aspirations. Not saying that you can't create very good part-time businesses, but to create a proper business, then it needs that application, and actually the understanding that learning how to communicate what we do and get people to buy into it is so important. And of course, I think a lot of that comes from actually your passion and your belief of what you do. If you don't passionately believe in what you do, then you won't communicate it well to other folk, and people will not buy into it. So I think that's one of the biggest skills and abilities that people need to have to be successful in business, and the desire to find a better way of doing the thing that you want to be doing, to and for your clients, if you like, to find ways of doing things different, to not be a me too.
Yeah.
I think the world's full of me toos, but I can do it cheaper than the other person, and all these things. Is finding a way to differentiate yourself, I think, is such an important factor.
Yeah, and I think that's been a huge insight that you've taught me over the last few years around the commercial piece as well. I think sometimes when you're starting out, you just want to price against what others are doing, or necessarily what your perceived self-worth is. You're new to the market, you're new as being self-employed, and you've really driven me on that. You kind of encouraged me to say, look, let's do your work out what your day rate is. And I think, that's definitely a skill set that I think is quite hard initially to develop and to grow and be confident and feel at ease with. Absolutely. You pretty much, like you said, you end up wearing so many different hats. The business development one is a vast one, isn't it? And then the social media piece and the IT, when it goes wrong, the finance piece. And I mean, I guess in last couple of years, you've actually expanded the business, haven't you, by having additional heads into the business to help with some of those other skills.
Yes. And that has been, I guess I've always had a lifestyle business, and maybe many people listening to this podcast will relate to that. And but it's probably in more recent times, because I began to realise the power of the work that we do, and I've had the desire to get it to a wider audience, that I've had to look at letting go of some things and let me focus on doing the things I do well, and bring others in who are dramatically better than me are, than I am, rather, about the things that actually make the business successful. And I think the biggest change that we've made has been, we've gone, the whole pandemic was a massive eye opener for us, because the business hit a brick wall at that point in time, because everything was based on physically being out there working with people, and of course we couldn't do that. So it's probably been 2.5 years to reinvent and create new programs, and we've gone digital. So everything we're doing now is largely digitally based, and personally, I hadn't a clue how to go about doing that. So, but I brought on a couple of young people who are absolutely amazing, and they know a gazillion times more than I do around these things, and what I've learned to do is just to delegate to them and let them lead in the areas that they are far better than I am, and let me focus things that I do well. So we're all very clear on our leadership roles, if you like. So actually we have 3 leaders in our small team, and you know, I think one thing I've learned is, you know, that we're not diminished by letting go to others. I think the best, most successful people are willing to bring in people who are better than them, and actually feel good about it. Yeah, not feel diminished, not feel as if, well, I have to have all the answers, I have to do everything myself. You know, I think the ability to let go and bring in people who are dramatically better than you are is a key success factor. It certainly has been a big difference to me.
I completely agree, and I think that's it, isn't it? When it's your business, it's your baby. In effect, it is your other child, and you kind of probably hold on because you've got your clients, you've got your work relationships, and to let some of that go to others, it's, you know, it's a big, bold, courageous move. But yeah, certainly for you, obviously a couple of years ago where you were, to move to the platform and use the technology like you are now, it's been a huge game changer, hasn't it, for the business?
Yeah, massive. Massive time investment, and emotional investment, physical investment, if you like, as well. But no, I mean, it's been prepared to change. It's being able to change with the times. You know, ideally, you predict and are ahead of the curve, but sometimes, you know, change is forced upon you, and how you're able to respond and react to that is a key success criteria.
Absolutely, and it is being resilient and a bit bold sometimes, isn't it? Because we can have those sleepless nights while we worry about it, and they're the ones who, you know, get bypassed by these changes that are going to arise. So great example.
Yeah.
Are there any lessons and knocks in the road that you've had? Any lessons that you've kind of thought, oh, you know, if I went back again and redid it and do it slightly differently? Or...
Oh, crikey. Yeah. How long do we have? Yeah. You know, I think I've made every mistake known to man, and some of them, you know, in more occasions than I'm going to admit to. Lessons for, you know, for entrepreneurs: really take control of the finances. Yeah, vitally important. I think so many, you know, I think that, you know, there's two big reasons why businesses fail. One is they can't find enough customers, and the other is they don't manage the finance particularly well. So I think that you know, there's that combination of factors. So yeah, and you know, really, you know, getting, you know, staying close and getting close, putting your customers, you know, at center stage. I think it's so easy when there are pressures on you to look at satisfying the business's needs, and we can sometimes take our eye off what's important to customers, and almost customers become second, and satisfying our own requirements becomes the driving force. And the minute we do that, you know, we're doomed. So really, you know, I think the big lesson has been, you know, I haven't always got it right. You know, I say I've made every mistake known to man, and some more than once. But actually being able to do what's right for your client, make decisions that are right for your client, I think is has to be at the core of any successful business, be it, you know, a one-person band or a, you know, 10,000 person business. I think that's pretty true of them all.
Yeah, no, that really resonates with me, because I've grappled sometimes. One of my big priorities is the flexibility, but in the same instance, when you've got loyal customers and you want that return business, then ultimately that's got to come first. And sometimes it's that compromise with an element of that flexibility. If you know they're in it for the long run, then you kind of need to step that and compromise it slightly to make, you know, be comfortable with it. But I think otherwise you're going to lose some of those really good customers along the way if that priority takes over. So I've definitely learned that, particularly this year with having Benjamin the second child. It's been slightly somewhat more of a challenge, and I've wanted more flexibility. But that's resonated a lot.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. So, is there any? I mean, I love your quotes, Colin. Like when we do the business development and coaching, you have some phenomenal quotes. Is there any quotes that you want to share? Things that resonate to you? Because I mean, I could recite several that you've told me over the last couple of years. I love the way you give them all the examples. So I think it's stuff that stays in people's brains.
Thank you. I know you put me in the spot. Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess I have a number of mantras. One is that nothing changes until you do. Yeah, we you know, I think this is it's a life mantra as well, and we look around ourselves and we think, I wish things could be this way, or things could be that way, or why are things always the way they are just now? Why can't things be different? And you know, and so many people give away their power by expecting that the world responds to them, if you like. And and one thing that I teach people from a leadership perspective, because that's the field that I work in, is that people often saying, I wish I could get this member of staff to do this. Why can't people do that? And all these things. And I say to them, well, if you want to find the reason, go look in the mirror, because you will be causing the things that, that you're seeing. You're either, allowing it to continue, having conversations, and so really, you cannot change other people. The only person we can change is ourselves. But as we change towards others, others have little option but to respond to us. You walk up to somebody and punch them in the nose or give them a cuddle, you get quite different responses. Yeah, we know that. So, if we want to get a different outcome in any part of our business, from our clients or in our personal lives, wherever we're getting from other human beings something that's not what we want, then look at the mirror and say, actually, what am I doing that is creating that behavioral response or that outcome that is not what I want, and then say, okay, how do I change to make that different? I think it's a big lesson that that I've learned from my many years on this planet, that those maybe of a more tender tender age may not quite have recognized yet.
No, that resonates with me, because I completely echo that. Yeah, I think I was in that situation where I wanted to be my own boss, but I wasn't going to do it. I needed that rocket for the business to go into administration. And I guess for some of our listeners are in that situation, like, I'd like to do it, and what is actually holding you back? Because I do agree that you control that, but you're a firm believer, not looking back and regretting it in a way. Yeah. Really good man.
Yeah, no, it's I apply it to this day, that when things go wrong in the business, as they do occasionally, then my first protocol is always, okay, what was my part in this? And I can't think of many situations where the result hasn't been, oh yeah, I didn't do. Okay, I'm saying others are never complicit in it, but there's always something that I have not done, that had I done it would give us a different outcome. And that ability to take personal ownership and personal responsibility, and I think accountability, responsibility, and ownership are things that I don't see as much of as I'd like to see. I think this is core to our well-being as human beings and our success as business people. It's that personal ownership, personal accountability, but the willingness to take personal responsibility and not blame the rest of the world. And it's so tempting just now to blame everybody else, and the economy's crap and all these things are wrong. And rather than saying, hang on, what's my part in this? What do I do about it? That personal responsibility, I think, because we do kind of live in a nanny state, and I think that really builds that kind of sense of entitlement, and that that lack of responsibility and personal ownership. And I say to anybody who's thinking of something in business, take control of it, take responsibility, take ownership of it. If it is to be, it's up to me. Would be another mantra. If it is to be, it's up to me. Nobody else will do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it. You're in the driving seat, aren't you? So it goes back to what's the pros are, but driving seat.
Yeah, it's wonderfully empowering, but it can be challenging and lonely sometimes. And I think it depends. It depends on your personality. And but no, I mean, it's taking control of your own destiny is a wonderfully empowering thing.
I think that's it. And I mean, I've certainly found it a little bit isolating on occasions, but reaching out and having people with like-minded, skill set, that's where this has been born from, really, because Laura and I have kind of had similar conversations, and we had lots of conversations through lockdowns, didn't we, around the business, and it was setting up. So I think you can create your own community, can't you, to get the passion and the thrive that you would have in an office. I was coaching somebody yesterday, and they've been running their own business and they want to go in-house, and they said, oh, it's just having the atmosphere of being back in an office. I was like, you can get that in different ways. Can you not try and find that in different avenues? So I think it's pros. There's pros and cons, but I certainly think being in the driving seat and trying to make that work in other ways is far better.
Absolutely.
And again, one of the things we talk about when we speak, and you've given me some great literature, is there a book that you would recommend to anybody starting out, or a book that you love?
Yeah, crikey, I've got 150 business books upstairs. Have I read any of them from cover to cover? No. Have any not actually been opened yet? Yes. Have any of them got lots of bookmarks in them? Yes, there's lots of those. I think one of the I'm not saying it's not particularly a business book, it is a life book. This is about helping us to understand what makes us tick, what drives our behaviors. The bottom line is that we are victims of our default settings and all these things. We as human beings, we're driven by our emotions, and we don't understand what our brain is doing to us all the time. This thing in between our ears is actually controlling every single thing we do, every action, every movement, every breath we take, and every physical decision we make and action we take or action we don't take is driven by what's going on between our ears. And 99.99999% of the world hasn't a clue what's going on. So there's a book written by a guy called Dr. Steve Peters called The Chimp Paradox that really every human being should read, because it lets you understand how your brain works, what it does to you, why it makes you do things, why it makes you not do things, why it makes you feel scared and happy and motivated and demotivated. It just helps you understand what this thing does to jack you all over the place and make you, create emotional turmoil and all these things. Actually learning to understand what it's doing to you. And actually, the chimp is a metaphor for your emotional brain. And the reality is that, you use example that the emotional brain is 6 times faster than the logical brain. Effectively, if our brain's here, our emotional brain's out here someplace, or it's probably here, because everything goes into our being, comes through our emotional brain first. And before logic can kick in, our emotions take over and makes us feel things and do things that often are the right things, but often are not the right things. So actually being able to learn what makes the thing that drives everything we do as a human being, how it works, I think is a great business understanding, but it's a great life understanding as well. Yeah. So The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters would be a real recommended read.
Yeah, and you recommended that to me, and I'd read it many years ago when I was at university when I was studying psychology, and I think at 18 didn't really resonate with me. It was very much about, some lecturers asked me to read it, but when we were doing the business development discussions, it absolutely crystallized what you just said. You need to understand that to be able to do this.
Absolutely, it was most helpful for me. I as men got on in years, having a full night's sleep without having to, have a loo break it sort of challenge. So my challenge was always, because there's always so many things going on in my head, that I go for go up to the loo at sort of 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you go back and of course when you're lying in silence, all these thoughts start flying around your head, and in the book they give you a fantastic tool, technique, approach for actually putting your chimp is the metaphor for your emotional brain, of putting your chimp back to sleep. It's your chimp that's keeping you awake, and learning how to manage a chimp. And it sounds a bit daft, but actually it's fantastically powerful. And so one of the first things I learned was how to go back to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and shut the brain off back to sleep again. That was one of the biggest things. My sleep is much better. And of course, it's great to help you to understand, where, lots of folk, worry. Yeah, probably, but probably half the world's population are great worriers. Yeah, and it helped you understand what actually causes worry and how you actually can manage that whole process. It just works on so many levels. So get a copy of that. I think it's available as a download as well. So and as an audio book too. So that would be my big recommendation.
Thank you. We'll make sure we put that in the comments below. I really appreciate your time, because I know you're so busy and you've obviously got lots going on with the business at the moment, lots of new launches and branding, etc. So do really appreciate the time joining us today.
Not at all. It's my great pleasure.
And we'll put a link in our podcast as well to your business website, so people can get a bit more background around what it is you do. And certainly a link to the Chimp Paradox book. So
brilliant.
Thanks, Michelle. So much, Colin. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed
it. Not at all.
As usual.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Colin. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We rely heavily on word of mouth, so if you found value in this episode, please hit subscribe and share it with family and friends. If you'd like to find out a bit more about us, you can find us on our Facebook group, Parentrepreneurs Club. or alternatively on Instagram, Parentrepreneurs_Club. We hope you have a great week and we look forward to talking to you next time.